The passion is back for the New York Islanders, and that's a good thing to see. We're going to break down some of the immediate differences we've seen under Patrick Waugh, all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We have got a lot to get to on today's show. Let's get started. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we are happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, so make sure you join me for instant insight and analysis. I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game, and hey, it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. One thing that we noticed, and it is clear that it's going to take some time for Patrick Waugh to get everything he wants in place. So far, he's had a couple of practices, a morning skate, a practice, and a game. And that's not a lot of time to introduce a new system and get the players to understand what he expects. It is a process. It will take time. And my belief is there's 3 games left this week, tonight, Thursday, Saturday. Those 3 games will sort of be the feeling out period, where Patrick Waugh gets a little bit more of an understanding of what the team is like, what the players can do, what they can't do. I'm sure he's watching a lot of game tape and game film and trying to see where this team needs help. And that's all expected. And I think after the All-Star break, when we return, that's when we'll begin to see some changes in the lineup. Hopefully, the remaining injured players will get healthy, and we'll have a little bit more about that coming up later on the show. But, hopefully we will see some of the changes that Patrick Waugh wants to implement, and we'll see the players at least having a basic understanding of what's expected of them, what the system is like, how to implement it and apply it. And the more they do it, the better it's going to be. But right now, after just one morning skate, one practice, and one game, we're already seeing reactions from players and just sort of where Patrick Waugh is coming from. Here's Matt Martin. You can tell he's enthusiastic and cares a lot about what he's doing and wants us to have success as a group. He voiced it being a partnership from the beginning, and we're all in this together. It's a different vibe. I think it came at a good time. Obviously, we need to win and win games now. So this was a good start. Captain Anders Lee. He's got a lot of energy. He brings it. He sees the game very well. Little tips. talking the whole time. Make a mistake. It's just about right now. Figure it out with the quick turnaround and everything, guys. We're able to get on the same page with those little things. A really good first night. Bo Horvat, he was definitely right into it. Like I said, he was pulling the whole game for us. He's got so much passion and love for the game back there. You could tell he was a pretty vocal goalie when he was back there yelling at his D. He was definitely helpful back there and definitely felt good getting the win for him. What we have so far, and it may not be more than this yet, but what we have after just one game is a wake-up call. It's a change that was needed. Sometimes you get a new manager at a job that you're working, and everything that was routine and the same old, it changes because the new person who comes in, he or she brings a different energy, a different dynamic, a different attitude. And when you're doing the same thing year after year, game after game, sometimes it can get a little flat, a little stale, and you may not even realize it until something changes. Well, something changed under Patrick Roy against the Dallas Stars. And look, we all know that newness, that this is different and exciting factor will last probably a couple of weeks, maybe, this week and then the week after the All-Star game. And, most teams, not all, but most do get a little bump after making a coaching change. Sometimes it's, 5 games, 10 games. Sometimes it's the rest of the season. And we have to see. But right now, with Patrick Roy, we have more excitement, more emotion, more, I think, hands-on positivity than what we had prior to this. And I'm not trying to knock Lane Lambert by any stretch of the imagination. And everydayers, I've said on this podcast, I think Lane Lambert can be a successful head coach in the NHL under the right circumstances, but he wasn't the right guy for this team at this time. And Patrick Roy brings energy, enthusiasm, an approach that seems to be exactly what the doctor ordered when it came to the problems this team has had with defensive zone spacing, with transitioning from defense to offense. His system and the way he's organized just seems to do exactly what this team is hungering for and needs to fix the fact that they're giving up so many shots on goal game after game after game and so many high danger scoring chances. It will take time, but I think so far, c'est magnifique for Patrick Roy and the New York Islanders, and this is a chance for a fresh start. Will there be changes to the lineup, changes to the roster? I think there will be between now and the trade deadline for sure. What it will be like, what Lou Lamoriello will do, well, that remains to be seen. But as of right now, not only is this positivity being felt by the players, but you could see it on social media. You could see it throughout the fan base. There is an energy, a buzz, an excitement that has been lacking. And a lot of that has to do with the reputation, the attitude, and the approach, and the respect that Patrick Roy brings to this position. So, lots more to see, a long road ahead, but quite a good start for Patrick Roy, and let's hope he can carry this and improve this team heading down for the future. All right. We have got a lot to get to on today's show. We are going to talk about another Islanders player coming off IR, a possible assistant coach hiring, but not official yet. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, this is an easy one. A Hall of Famer who is flat out the greatest goal scorer in Islanders history. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code Vegas100. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, so Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. My favorite feature on Game Time is that you can go on the app and see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect before you arrive. And Game Time not only has tickets right up to the start of the event, they even have them available an hour after the event starts. It is the place to find last-minute deals. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time right now. All Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app. Use code VEGAS100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So a little news, and it's good news. The Islanders on Monday making a transaction, activating goaltender Semyon Varlamov off the IR and sending Ken Appleby back down to Bridgeport to make room for Varley on the roster. Varley out of action since January 2nd, missed a total of 8 games, and he did return for the morning skate on Sunday before the game against Dallas, and apparently that was enough for the Islanders to see, and they are activating him. And look, let's face it, a couple of things. First of all, no disrespect to Ken Appleby, but clearly the coaching staff did not feel comfortable playing him other than in mop-up duty. And, you know, they had a back-to-back a week ago, and Sorokin started both games. Now, Appleby did see one period of action after the Islanders fell behind against Minnesota, and he let in 2 more goals, and that was that. But realistically, it is important to get Varlamov back. And I think with 3 games left before the All-Star break, that Varley plays one of them. Probably, if I was guessing, it's going to be the Thursday game in Montreal, but we don't know that yet for sure. That's just my sort of educated guess. But let's face it, Ilya Sorokin has been overworked, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one has been that they didn't trust the backup goalie with Varlamov on IR to start a game. And so, you know, he's been in 14 straight games now. And that's a lot in the NHL. And the other thing is the way this team has played mediocre at best defense in front of Ilya Sorokin also has been a problem. When you're facing 35, 40 shots or more per game and a lot of high danger chances, you know, there's a big difference between facing 22 shots with 1 or 2 high danger chances and facing 45 shots with a dozen high danger chances. it is a lot more exhausting for a goalie to face more shots and more high danger chances. And when you compound that with having to play, every game for 14 straight games, it does take a toll. So in my mind, 3 games left before the All-Star break. Varley, if he's ready, starts at least one. I would think it would be Sorokin, Varley, Sorokin, but again, it could be Sorokin, Sorokin, Varley, Varley, Sorokin, Sorokin. There's, all different kinds of possible combinations that Patrick Roy can use. Remember this. Roy was the coach when Varlamov had his best season in the NHL with Colorado. And they know each other. I think they have had a positive relationship. And I don't think Roy will hesitate to use Varley. Now, could he be a little bit rusty when he returns? Yeah, that is definitely a distinct possibility. But you got to get the rust out. And the only way you get the rust out is by playing. And now it just becomes a question of getting him some game time in the lineup. To me, the better game to do that is Montreal, just because Florida and Vegas are better teams than Montreal. No disrespect to the Canadiens. Right now, they've been a very pleasant surprise this year, but Vegas is the defending Stanley Cup champions. Florida were their opponent in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. So, not that Montreal will be an easy opponent, but if I'm going to play a rusty backup goalie in one of those 3 games, it would be against the Habs. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see which direction Patrick Roy decides to go in. One other little bit of information, and there's been some conflicting reports about this, but there was a report from RDS, which is a French language network up in Canada, that the Islanders were going to add Benoit Desrosiers to be their 3rd assistant coach for the rest of this season. And Desrosiers was working with Roy as an assistant with the Quebec Remparts during the 5 years that Roy was the head coach there. Both Doug Huda and John McClain are going to stay on, behind the bench as assistants. But, that was the rumor, that Desrosiers will soon be joining the Islanders. Well, the Islanders put out a statement via X saying Benoit Desrosiers has not been hired by the New York Islanders, but there are plans for president and general manager Lou Lamoriello to meet with Desrosiers in the future. So, as of right now, he has not been hired, but you get the feeling, if they can work out the dollars and cents and, what his responsibilities will be, that Benoit Desrosiers will soon be joining Patrick Roy and Doug Huda and John McClain behind the Islanders bench for the rest of this season, and quite possibly beyond, if that is something that all parties are comfortable with. So we'll keep an eye on that. And certainly if there is an official hiring, we will let you know via X, and we'll mention it on a future episode. But as of right now, no changes on the coaching staff, although it looks like a change could become, or an addition could be coming soon. We have got more to get to on today's show. We will have a full preview of tonight's game at the UBS Arena against the Vegas Golden Knights. By the way, that's a 7:30 Eastern time start, and you can listen to every minute of that game with the Islanders' hometown radio broadcast on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. We've got that. We've got our Islanders birthday of the day and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. We're just past the halfway point, Islanders fans, of this season, and the Islanders are still in the thick of the playoff hunt. But regardless of where we are in the standings, I want to remind you that you could win big playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Horvat, McDavid, or Crosby will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Islander fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Islanders, Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions. That game, 7:30 at the UBS Arena. And again, you could hear every minute of the Islanders' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. Vegas, not an easy opponent. They are in second place right now in the Pacific Division, but 27-14-5 on the season. And they are, as I mentioned earlier, the defending Stanley Cup champs. 13th in the league in goals scored, 7th in goals against. The special teams are kind of in the middle. Power play 19th, 20.4% conversion rate. The PK, basically right in the middle at 16th with an 80% success rate. And as far as Vegas goes, they're coming off a back-to-back. They're playing the New Jersey Devils on Monday. And we know that Logan Thompson got the start in this game for Vegas. So under those circumstances, it is quite likely, but certainly not guaranteed, that the Islanders will face backup goalie Isaiah Seville. But again, we'll see. Injuries are affecting Vegas right now, even though they are on a 3-game winning streak heading into that game in New Jersey. Shea Theodore, Aiden Hill, William Carrier, Ben Hutton, William Karlsson, Jack Eichel, all on IR right now. Michael Amadio is day-to-day, but again, not easy. Even with all these injuries, Vegas has depth. That's how they won the Stanley Cup, rolling 4 lines and wearing you down with an aggressive forecheck. The line combinations for the Golden Knights: Chandler Stevenson right now centering Pavel Dorofeyev and Mark Stone on the top line. Nicholas Roy, Ivan Barbashev, and Jonathan Marchessault the second line. Brett Howden centers Brandon Brisson and Paul Cotter on the third line. Brian Froese, Jonas Rondberg, and Keegan Colasar are the fourth line. On defense, Alec Martinez and Alex Pietrangelo are the top pair. Braden McNabb and Caden Korzak are the second pairing. And Zach Whitecloud and Nicholas Haig are the third pair. As I mentioned, the goalies, Thompson and Seville. And we expect, but don't know for sure at this point, that Seville will likely get the start against the Islanders. As far as goal scoring is concerned, Marchessault right now leading the team with 20, although Eichel right behind him at 19, and he's missed time. Mark Stone leads the team with 32 assists and 47 points. And watch for Marchessault and Stone on the power play. Stone has 10 power play assists to lead the team. Marchessault, 6 goals, 6 assists. Eichel has 7 goals and 7 assists, but again, he is on IR. So injuries just kind of, piling up right now for the Vegas Golden Knights. Won't be easy. Islanders are going to have to really do a solid job of getting the puck out of their own zone. Patrick Roy has emphasized the importance of positioning and of transition, and it is time for that to start having an effect because Vegas is relentless in the way they play and very, very hard to slow down and very, very hard to stop. They wear you down, and it'll be interesting to see, even with Vegas coming off a back-to-back. Usually the team that comes off the back-to-back is a little more ready and aggressive in the first period, tends to tire in the third. We'll find out if that happens, but should be interesting to see how the Islanders handle this and how Patrick Roy and his strategy that he's employing deals with this. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And this one, well, it's bittersweet. Yesterday, was or would have been the birthday of former Islanders Hall of Fame winger Mike Bossy. We lost Mike Bossy in April of 2022. Bossy, first round pick of the Islanders, 15th overall back in 1977, also drafted by the Indianapolis Racers of the WHA, but thankfully he signed with Bill Torrey and the Isles. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, pure snipers in the history of the NHL. Never had less than 50 goals in a season until his final year when he only played 63 games. His lowest goal total in a season was 38, and he did that with a bad back. He was a member of all 4 Islanders Stanley Cup winning teams, scored 85 goals and 160 points in 129 playoff games, and 573 goals, 1,126 points in just 752 NHL games. Won 3 Lady Bings from gentlemanly play, a Conn Smythe Trophy in 1982 as the playoff MVP, and the Calder Memorial Trophy in 1978 as the Rookie of the Year in the NHL. He was outstanding. Very hard to pick one great moment for Mike Bossy, but I'm going with what was his first career playoff hat trick. April 16th, 1979, Game 1 of a best-of-7 quarterfinal series between the Islanders and the Chicago Blackhawks at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. The Blackhawks had a Hall of Famer in goal, Tony Esposito. Chico Resch, the goalie for the Islanders. Mike Bossy with the hat trick. A goal in the first period with assists to John Tonelli and Brian Trottier. A power play goal in the second period. Assist to Dennis Potvin and Stefan Pearson. And a goal in the third period, the assist to Pat Price. The first career playoff hat trick for Michael Dean Bossy. Islanders beat the Blackhawks by a final score of 6-2. Bossy also had an assist in this game. 3 goals, 1 assist. He assisted on Dennis Potvin's third period goal that helped extend the Islander lead. He was a +4 and had 3 goals in 4 shots on goal. 3 assists in that game for John Tonelli, but Mike Bossy, 4 points in a playoff game against a Hall of Fame goaltender, one of just so many great moments. 44 career hat tricks for Mike Bossy, just an unbelievable player. He is missed by all the Islanders faithful, always great with the fans, nice guy, and we lost him too soon at the age of 65. So Mike Bossy, yeah, we're a day late, but Mike Bossy is our Islanders birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we'll have our key takeaways from the game against the Vegas Golden Knights that's going to be played tonight. Plus, we'll have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. And, maybe, just maybe, some of those guys might get called up if Patrick Roy wants a few changes in the lineup. So it gets even more interesting in that respect. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy the game tonight. And, of course, let's go Islanders.